All right, well, thank y'all for being here. Everybody's here to talk about recruitment, and I guess what Game of Thrones can teach you about that, right? Morning, everybody wave, say hi. I know it's early for some of you. I hope you've had your coffee. Thank you for being here. I promise we're gonna have fun. I promise, fingers crossed, you're gonna learn a lot. So I think today is going to be fun. You know, technically I call this workshop Growing Strong, but we're having a little fun here with what Game of Thrones can teach you about recruitment, some tips, tricks, and strategies for hopefully your best recruitment yet. The Game of Thrones thing is really kind of just a hook to hopefully get you interested and make this a little bit fun to talk about. But again, the main thing we're talking about is recruitment. So I really can't keep this in the right spot. That is my face. Hello, everyone. My name is Katie Langley. I am a life member of the Psi chapter at the University of Arkansas. I am an honorary brother of the Southwest District of Kappa Psi, which is really wonderful. I do mention that I'm an alumna of Alpha Delta Pi National Panhellenic Sorority. I mention that because a lot of my real recruitment training and strategy I gained there, because Panhellenic sororities definitely really prioritize recruitment. They put a lot of time, energy, and resources behind it. And while it is, of course, a different process than what we do, there is something to learn from that kind of like time, effort, and strategy taken to make recruitment a priority for your organization. I am from Arkansas, but I do now live and work here in Chicago, Illinois, which is wonderful, if, you know, very crowded right now during a pandemic. And you can see my email information there, katielangley@tbsigma.org. Please reach out. I love answering questions about just about anything, but recruitment is my jam. You can also add me on Facebook and reach out there if that's easier for you. I'm always happy to talk. Please don't hesitate. All right, so I know the burning question y'all got right now is, what on earth does Game of Thrones have to do with any of this, right? I'm talking about recruitment. What's going on here? All right, well, you heard me mention briefly that I learned a lot about recruitment from Panhellenic organizations, right? I was going through recruitment on both sides in both organizations at the same time. My home chapter of TBS was kind of struggling. We were really small. People did not want to join us. And I kind of went, wait, why is everybody over here doing recruitment for, you know, Alpha Delta Pi? They don't have a problem. What are we struggling with here? Again, they had a plan. They had a strategy. And what do the characters in Game of Thrones do better than anything else? Strategy. Right? You think the Red Wedding just happened? Nah, there was a lot of planning that went into that. Again, I do have to say, shouldn't have to say it, we don't advocate murder or violence in any way, but we do advocate planning like you were trying to take over a kingdom. Huh? Does this work? Does this connection work? It is a little bit of a bait and switch, but we're having fun with it. So I want you guys to start thinking about recruitment as something that doesn't just happen to your chapter. People don't just show up and, oh yeah, I'm gonna join TBS and I'm a great candidate and hey, it's gonna be fun. That doesn't happen. You gotta plan, you gotta make it a priority, and you gotta work together as a chapter, and you gotta work as individuals, not just your VPM, but all of you together to make recruitment a priority and a success for your chapter. All right. So today, we're going to be talking about the steps to essentially, again, create and execute a strategy. So these are, again, the high-level pieces we're going to talk about today. As a chapter, step one, creating a recruitment strategy. Then you have to plan your recruitment events. You have to plan your recruitment activities, whatever those may be. And you have to prepare your members. So again, your chapter needs to be working together to all be on the same page about how to plan and execute an excellent recruitment. Again, we're always going to bring it back to your responsibility as an individual. What are some things you can do there as an individual striving for a strong recruitment? Identifying potential candidates, that's part of your responsibility. Passive recruitment and active recruitment. So these are the things we're going to talk about today. As I said, each of these bullet points could be its own hour-long workshop if you wanted it to be, and I will actually have some workshops on some of these. So, but again, we're going to hit some high-level stuff. Stop if you have questions. We'll also take some at the end. We'll have some activities. It's going to be fun. We aren't going to do this. We weren't going to get memes, right? Come on. I got to play with the theme a little bit. Okay, so first let's talk about how we create this strategy. Look at our characters being so strategic. Step one, you want to set recruitment goals. How many of y'all does your chapter actually sit down and say what you want to get out of recruitment? Are you actually establishing what the goal is? Now, sometimes these can be specific. So for example, I've seen chapters that say, we're struggling with attendance at our recruitment events. So we want to increase attendance at recruitment events. That's a very specific recruitment goal. That's great. Or it could be something as, we're having issues. We give out bids to great candidates, but really don't have a high acceptance rate. We really want to improve that acceptance rate. These can be things that are specific to your chapter with what you're struggling with right now. Ignore the cloud. But some things I want you to start thinking about are the broader goals of who you want to join. And again, so that does create a question of quality versus quantity, right? So yes, you want to continue to recruit members to maintain or increase your numbers. You don't want to die out because you don't have enough members. However, you really want to ensure that it's those quality members that are going to help your organization grow in the future, not just in size, but in what you're able to do, the strength of your chapter. So one way I like to think about this is, oh, there you go. Get all of those quality members you want. So let's say you've identified early in the year that there are 10 just outstanding potential candidates for your organization. That's who you should be, that's your number. You've got your quantity, you've established their quality. You really want to make sure you're able to get those individuals. Does that make sense? Quality comes first, but you do need to be thinking about reaching out and expanding your numbers. It doesn't work if nobody shows up. So that is a basic part of the strategy. Always be thinking about that as a group. So one of your goals, and we're talking about creating a strategy, we're talking about establishing some goals. One of your goals should be diversity in recruitment. Why? Well, it's part of our mission in Tau Beta Sigma, number one. Hope you get that part. But number two, it's just, you know, all studies, all examples prove that diversity makes us better, makes us stronger. And I say this now because I want this to be part of your strategy. I want you to always be thinking about how you are promoting diversity and inclusion in your recruitment. So let's also remember diversity can mean many things. It is not a buzzword, code word for something. Please do not use it as such. So obviously we do think diversity, we think of some of the basics of difference in skin color, ethnicity, gender expression, sexuality. We do include those. That is important here, but it does also mean things like diversity in instrumentation, diversity in background, diversity in ways of thinking and attitudes. Again, it can be easy to recruit a chapter of all of your friends who look and act like you. That's easy, but that doesn't make a strong chapter. You want to start encouraging, reaching out and reaching across those lines to connect with people who may be a little different than you. That's a good thing. So, and again, like everything we're talking about today, doesn't just happen. We do hear this sometimes where chapters say, well, we can't help it that people, the people who just keep wanting to join us are just like us. We can't help it that more diverse candidates aren't interested. Well, that's one of our myth busters from the panel yesterday. It is something you can help. So how? Again, going through these steps, preparing your chapter, preparing your individuals. So one thing I do recommend is talking about diversity and inclusion before recruitment ever happens. Work on what that is within your chapter. Also want to note, it's okay to bring in outside support. A lot of universities have a diversity, inclusion, or D&I office and have people who are willing to come in and present for you. I highly recommend doing this as a chapter. I mean, you have the resource, why not? And start talking about how you're promoting that in your chapter every day, and then start spreading that out into your recruitment. And this is a key one for your recruitment events. Making sure that those events themselves are open and inclusive, and that not only would everyone feel comfortable attending them, but that they would actually want to attend them. So this is kind of key. We'll talk about this a little bit more about how you can do that when we talk about planning recruitment events, but this is one actually that's pretty easy to affect. If you're making sure your events are open and inclusive, I would also highlight, if anybody from the North Central District is on here, they're highlighting programs that accessibility in their programming. So in terms of, are people with all levels of mobility access able to attend? Are there all sorts of food options that take into account dietary or religious eating restrictions? So there are a lot of things you can be thinking about. Don't just, throw up the event because this sounds like something fun without stopping and asking the question, are we being open and inclusive in our event planning? When in doubt, focus on the mission of TBS. Some of the best recruitment events I've seen are service projects. Because man, if people want to come do that, they want to come serve with you, guess what? They'd probably be a great candidate for TBS. They willingly want to come do this service. That's a really great indicator. I've also seen women in music speaker events, things like that, that can kind of double as a recruitment event as well, which is really cool. And of course, personal attitudes. This is a little takeaway challenge for you. When was the last time you talked to someone just not in your section? You can start small, you can start there. It's really easy to stay in our cliques, in our sections, in our friends, in our already members of TBS clique that we have. It's really important that we're not just staying there. Challenge yourself, get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And we'll talk a little bit about how you can do that in conversation techniques as well. But just always reflect inward of what am I doing to improve this? That's a really key point here, I think, as well. Again, ask the question. Sometimes the answer is, yes, this is great. We're doing a great job. And that's great. But just always make asking the question part of your process. All right. I feel like we're moving right along. Does anybody have any questions before we continue? Diversity is a big topic, I know. No? Y'all bored already? It's fine. It's okay. It's okay. We have time for questions. We still got a lot to cover. So I know you're getting sick and tired of listening to me. So, oh, also, I did mean to say earlier, if you want to take notes on some of these takeaway, I'm going to give you a lot of takeaway challenges, both personal and for your chapter. So try this with your chapter. Try this on your own. Write it down. Save it for later. I do a lot of homework like that. So please save that information. I recommend that. All right, so one of the next big phases of planning and executing a recruitment strategy is specifically the events or activities that you host. So again, back to strategy. What is your goal? So what is a goal of a recruitment event? Anybody have any ideas about that? What the goal of a recruitment event might be? This is the way I can like look at your faces. It's really fun.
Yes. Looks like Lauren. Oh.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm from the beta chapter at Texas Tech. I think a goal of our recruitment activities at least are like to get the prospective like candidates talking to actives and getting to know the active members and the chapter and kind of what we're all about.
Yeah, that's really great. Getting your actives to talk to your potential candidates. Absolutely, that's a great one. Thank you, Beta. What else? I saw another hand somewhere in there. Pop off mute and just say hi if you.
Okay, for us, oh God, I'm sorry. Okay, for us, like, I think it's kind of unspoken, but it's just kind of like how I feel like our chapter's vibe is. Oh, I'm from Eta Lambda at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Okay. Is that by the end of the recruitment event, we want them to want to join our sorority. So like, it's kind of like we put in the effort to get them there, but we want them to want to come back by the end.
Yes. Oh yeah, the raise hand. Yeah, I don't know if I can have the chat thing. That's a really great way to think about it. You want them to want to join. It's a really basic thing. I will call you on saying though it's an unspoken thing. So definitely make that a spoken thing because that's great. That's a great goal. Really identify that with everybody. Right. Creating new relationships with band members, etc. I'll have some really great recruitment event goals. And but here's one I also want you to think about if you want to keep it real simple. When an attendee leaves an event, they should know something about TBS and someone in TBS. So it's a really great way to be thinking about that. So, and that actually leads me to my next point of balancing the fun with the information. So it's important in planning events. You want them to be something people want to attend. Like I totally get that. You know, it's like we are going to have a sit quietly event. Like that doesn't, or we're going to just go sit and be bored and do nothing. Like that's not really exciting versus I've heard some really great creative ones from groups. They do Mario Kart events or board game nights, or just like I've heard of just really great, fun, exciting recruitment events. One thing though to include is that you should still also be sharing information about TBS at those. Like I've heard of a lot of these really great events. I'm like, cool, all right, what did you teach about TBS? And I get a blank stare. It's great. And again, but it's a balance, and you should include some information, but also not just be, hello, I'm going to give you an awkward speech about TBS and then we can all go home. That's not really a popular recruitment event either. I've seen a lot of different strategies with this. For example, chapters who, let's say they're going to do 5 recruitment events. They're going to spread out what information they share at each of those. So tonight we're going to talk about national programs that we do. Tonight we're going to talk about specifically our service to our local bands. Tonight we're going to talk about some of our favorite sisterhood events, and we're going to share one with you, and we're going to do an activity with all of you together. Just really great ways to, you can spread out the information so it's not just like a data dump, like no one really learns much from that. And again, really preparing your members to, at these events, talking to people. These should be required events for your active members. It should not just be an optional thing, because that doesn't make y'all look good if only 3 people show up from your chapter. So really find ways to incorporate bringing in your actives with this as well. Click here. And of course, don't forget to ask if these are open and inclusive events. I will give you a really wonderful example here of a chapter that was predominantly female and wanted to be more inclusive of different genders and gender expression, but said to me, we don't get it. Boys don't just want to join us. And I said, okay, well, what do you do with your recruitment? And some of the responses were Disney princess movie night, arts and crafts, morning yoga. And I was like, yeah, let me stop you right there. I am identifying pretty female here, and I don't want to do yoga with a bunch of strangers here. So ask yourself, would people want to attend your event? I was like, let's switch it up. Maybe it's not yoga. Maybe it's kind of more general health and wellness. You have wellness chairs in your chapter. Maybe come up with something there. Maybe it's not Disney princesses. Maybe it's a Pixar movie night or something like that. You can still have these fun activities, but and it's easy to start with, what would I want to attend? That's a great starting place. But then you have to start opening it up to, like, what about everybody else? What are some other fun things that can get more people in the door? A lot of your events are about get them in the door. Just get them here for a few minutes, make it fun. So let me tell you why TBS is awesome. I just got to get you in the door, and then I'm going to tell you why you should stay. That's kind of a really good way to think of it too. And please don't do a Disney princess movie night recruitment event. And this is also actually really key. Are you promoting these events? I can't think of how many chapters have said, like, oh, well, no one comes. And I'm just like, well, how did you promote it? And they said, well, we announced it after band one day. Well, if you know anything about college students, sometimes it bears repeating. I really encourage active social media use. I encourage, if you do in your music or band hall, if you have flyers that you can hang up, announcements are a really great way, again, leading up to it, and then on the day of. Everybody loves a good announcement, and also really empower your actives to promote that. This is a really great thing when we get into our recruitment talk activity. It's a really great way to say, like, if someone's asking you about TBS, you're talking about it, always, your ending point should always be, and we have a recruitment event tonight, please come. Like, always know when that next recruitment event is and use your actives to spread the good news about that. So no, you should never have an issue with attendance because someone just didn't know. So always be sharing that information. And of course, someone said this earlier about how we want, say a beta saying, like, we want our actives to talk to them. Like, that's exactly it. Your members are the main attraction. I think I said earlier, it should be a required event. Members should be there, and they should be breaking out of their cliques and talking to these potential new members. We'll talk a little bit about how you can do that. All right, so before we keep going, any questions specifically on recruitment events and the planning and executing of those events? Does anybody have some cool events they might want to share? I'm always trying to build out my database of fun recruitment events.
My chapter, our last recruitment for this past spring actually was one of the favorite ones that I've seen in my 2 semesters as an active. It was we had an overall theme for our entire recruitment. It was called Games with TBS or something like that. And each night of recruitment was a different style of game night. So one time we had like a board game night. The other time, one night we had a minute to win it game night. And then there was another game night where there was like very interactive games. So like we played human-sized Candyland and human-sized Hungry Hungry Hippos with those little carts that you have in like elementary school.
Yes.
that you scoot around on. We'd have we paired an active with one of the prospective members, and they would take turns switching off. One person was grabbing their legs and pushing them around on the cart to grab the balls in the middle. It was so much fun. I was so proud of our VPM at the time.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm running for VPM. That's why I'm sorry. I'm doing all this because I want to be prepared if I get elected today. But yeah, the game night was a big thing. That's like one of the best events that I've ever been to for recruitment on campus at all.
That's absolutely wonderful. Yeah, please take notes, y'all. That's a really great example of love that plan of having a theme. That's super cute. And again, thinking about recruitment as a broad spectrum. And because you've had those different options, people who, you know, I would love that Hungry Hungry Hippos game. That sounds amazing. But someone who may feel a little uncomfortable with that can just come to like board game night and feel a little more comfortable there. So like that's a really great way. And also you're showing off that your chapter's fun. And, you know, I hope you're also sharing some cool activities with, you know, what TBS stands for. Like that is really excellent. Thank you for sharing that. And I did have a question here from Kat, which is actually a really good point that, so if you can probably see it on my screen, yeah, larger chapters sometimes can feel that it can be intimidating to P&Ms for everyone to attend. That is the case. That is a kind of exception to the rule of this should be required events. If you have a chapter of 50 people, maybe not everyone at every event, but I think what I'm getting at is it should never be just the VPM and 2 other people if you have a chapter of 10 or more. That's really kind of what I'm getting at here. So some things also I would recommend for those larger chapters is also divvying up responsibilities. So maybe if you have a chapter of 50, maybe 10 are in charge of setup and 20 are at the event itself and in charge of put your best talkers in there, and then 10 are in charge of cleanup. There's a way you can still make this, you should all be participating. The goal is that it should be required that everyone be at least one. If you have a big chapter, you have to spread it out because it should never be a situation where you have these amazing candidates, potential candidates coming to your events and the actives haven't talked to them. So essentially, actives need to be involved with your recruitment. And if maybe they're not as comfortable with talking, they can be in charge of things like setting up and cleaning up and things like that. There's ways to be connected there. Does that help for anybody with a large chapter that might have that issue? Oh, I'm seeing some other fun. They go, oh, I love that. The local high school and playing with their band. Exactly. That's a good service community project. Lauren from Beta putting in there about going to a local high school and playing with them. It's a really great way to incorporate service and music and community in what you're doing. Ice skating? What? Love that. Anybody else wants to verbally say something?
Hi. Alpha Omega does an event where like it's called TBS 101, and so like we have like different pods like based on the 4 pillars, and so like our current active sisters talk to candidates about like each pillar, and then it gives like the interested members a good idea of like what like we embody, and then it also gives us a good idea of like how they feel about these pillars like in their lives.
Absolutely. Ooh, I love that. Really building that personal connection. And you know, making it perhaps even a little more serious and talking about like the seriousness and the importance of TBS. I love that.
They're split into smaller groups too, so it's less intimidating.
Yes, that is a great point for, again, larger chapters or larger band programs where your recruitment events can get really big. Small group activities are really smart there. Excellent. Thank you for that. I think I heard someone else about to say something too.
Hi, my name is Maya Tillett. I am a part of the Theta Phi chapter at Hampton University. A lot of times at our school in general, we give each organization a week. And so for the full week, you can do any type of event that you want. So we also don't just limit it to our band students just attending, the university can attend, which increases the numbers for students in the band program. And then it also gives you more opportunity to reach out to membership candidates who would like to join our organization. And I find that it's very interesting, and you get people from different walks of life. And we just love to have fun. So even if you don't want to be a part of the band, but you want to try to serve in some way, shape, or form, it's just a good way for people to know what TBS is about, one, and to be exposed to that.
Absolutely. Thank you. I love that. It's a way of kind of really opening it up. And you even hit on a really key point there too. Even you're not just about getting your candidates here, you're getting the word out about what TBS is and why we're an important part of what's happening on a campus. Like, I love that. These are great. I'm seeing some other really great ones here with some service projects, some social events. I think y'all got it. Y'all got some really great ideas, and I hope this also should emphasize the point of talk to other chapters and see what they do, because I've been around recruitment for years, and I'm still learning about new ways to do this. I'm still learning new fun events that chapters are coming up with, because y'all are just creative as can be, and that's really amazing. So please use each other. Y'all are a resource. All right, I'm gonna keep on going. Thank you for this. These are some really great examples. All right, so we've been talking about recruitment events. The next step here in the strategy is preparing your members. So we're gonna go right back into the question phase of how do you as a chapter, whether you are a VPM or not, how do you prepare your active members for the recruitment phase? Do y'all do something? Do y'all do nothing? That's also okay, that's the answer. We'll talk about what you can do. Anybody? Do y'all just do nothing?
Well, I know
Sorry, you go first.
okay. I know for us, we always go through a process of like going through the handbook and like just understanding like what is the we call it 8 to 5, but we go through the different portions and just ask how that applies to your life, and then it's easier for them to understand, and then for them to be able to use those to recruit and understand that that's what we want to bring into our organization. So if you understand those and you explain it to someone else and they're like-minded like you, that makes the recruitment process easier, and it helps everyone to be on a cohesive page.
Did you read my workshop already? Because that was on point. No, that's super excellent about talking, again, starting with your actives and really identifying those key points, your 8 and 5, like the really important parts about TBS. How are you connecting with that personally? And how are you then going to talk about and share that with others? It's excellent. Thank you for sharing. All right, I heard somebody else start speaking up at some point.
Oh yeah, so for us last year, so this is my second term as VPM. And last year, what I started at the beginning of the year, at the first chapter, we do like a recruitment CMEP to talk about all of our recruitment events and kind of get like all the info out there. Like, this is how you need to act at a recruitment event. Like, you don't need to bring a negative attitude. We also have a KK side chapter on our campus. And so we kind of set the standard of this is how you need to talk about the organization. You don't need to say disrespectful things about them. And kind of just set the expectations, that way people understand what is expected of them before going into recruitment.
Ooh, that's it. That nugget right there. People understand what is expected of them before going into recruitment. That's a really great thing to click in on. Thank you. And both of y'all also touched in on the important part here is y'all are taking time. There is a set time before recruitment ever happens, before we're all back on campus. We're talking about what recruitment is. We're not just showing up to campus and be like, all right, bye, see ya, find some candidates, goodbye. We have to actually be planning ahead and remembering that a lot of times, so say for your brand new actives have never potentially done this before. This could be kind of intimidating. What do I do? What do I talk about? Do I just tell people I love band? Is that it? And then, of course, you also have your older members who can always learn something new. This is one I always have to bring in. Just because you old business doesn't mean you can't learn something new. So, and with that, it's also a really great thing to bring in your older actives who have done this a few times and who can share that expertise with newer members. It's something I've learned in recruitment, something that works really well for me is, and that's a really great opportunity to share with others. And it also is absolutely a bonding time for your chapter, which is really exciting. Oh, I already said that. Cool, I said that. So this is where I really encourage y'all to essentially meet beforehand. I see a lot of chapters who do summer retreats or summer meetings, and emphasize a piece of that is recruitment strategy, sharing the strategy with their members or coming up with it together. That can be a process. Reviewing the recruitment events like you talked about, and very specifically talking about how you talk about TBS, which is a very good lesson to learn. So I would just highly recommend, if nothing else, please take away, set aside some time to prepare beforehand, because you might have some sisters who feel real nervous and uncomfortable about it and may not speak up and say, I don't know what to do. Set aside some time for them to ask that question. Set aside some time to plan for these things. And so these things you can do here as a chapter. I do recommend define the ideal sister. You mentioned just a second ago, the 5 and the 8. Yes, we're going to talk about using that and how you identify a potential candidate, and how you encourage passive recruitment, also what we're going to talk about, and how you practice active recruitment. All of these things are important, and it's really good to make sure you're taking time to prepare your chapter to do these 3 things right here. I'll go ahead and keep on. All right, so here we go. Identifying potential candidates. This is a really great activity. If you've never done this with your chapter, just sit around and say, what does the ideal sister look like? Does anybody want to try that? You don't have to. This is just kind of a fun one. Yeah. So this is just a really good activity. Get your chapter talking about it, and talk about it for yourself. We do have a map for this. I really hope y'all are familiar with the 5 and the 8 by now, and our mission and our values. So then the next step here is to, and this is a take-home activity, write this down. What are some specific ways a band member can demonstrate those qualities? How do you know if someone is demonstrating the 5 and the 8? How can you pick out that candidate? This time I am going to ask you to tell me. Who wants to tell me? I'll keep shoulder dance until someone talks. Come on, I know you got some great information here.
Hi, I'm Jess. I'm from the Eta Alpha chapter at Syracuse. Something that we do it's recruitment, but it's not an event, is when we have practice for band that's not at our usual location, we load a truck with all the instruments, and we offer that anyone who's interested can help out. So that's a really good way to see if people are interested in service early on, because it's not mandatory or required of them. But a lot of people do come forward and help out and talk to the sisters at events like that.
Yes, absolutely. That should be the first thing. Anybody who is volunteering to help in any capacity, even if it's just like, hey, do you guys need a hand? You should get that person's name and remember that person's name, because that is absolutely one of the qualities we want to see in a person. Thank you. Who else got one for me?
Hello. A lot of our TBS sisters are section leaders in our marching band. So we ask the section leaders to give small leadership opportunities, like when we break into small groups, asking if people want to help lead little small marching groups and stuff like that, and then try to bring those people to our events.
Absolutely. That is excellent. You pointed out leadership, again, one of these things we absolutely want to promote and encourage. Number 2, you highlighted how you're using your members as a resource. Your members are all across the band. Your VPM cannot be everywhere. And they're in those sections, they're like, wow, this clarinet is just killing it. This clarinet, they're here early every day. They're volunteering to help. They're helping these other students next to them who are struggling a little bit with pieces. They're volunteering to help them with the music. How cool is that? So that's absolutely a key point. Thank you for bringing that forward. I think make sure then as a chapter, y'all are checking in with each other throughout your process, who are these candidates? You should know their names. There should be a list somewhere. And that list can absolutely be people who've attended an event, a recruitment event, because A, they've made their interest known. B, these people who are volunteering to help. C, this list that you're getting from your actives throughout the band of those leaders, those people stepping up, those people kind of going above and beyond. These are great. Thank you. Does anybody else have one they want to include? Thank you. These are so good. Y'all are doing the work for me.
One thing I see on our campus is that a lot of our TBS sisters are also in other music organizations throughout the campus, whether they be Greek or non-Greek, because we have a few non-Greek organizations. And we've had the privilege of having, our sisters in those organizations being very vocal in them. So they talk about TBS and stuff like that. But sometimes we'll get people from NAFME to join TBS. We'll get SAI sisters to join PMA brothers. So it's not, if you're in another organization, don't shy away from talking to those members that aren't in yours just because they're in a different organization that you're in.
Absolutely. We're not just talking to oh, here's my TBS candidate, I'm gonna talk to them and nobody else. No, you're representing everywhere and all the time. That's excellent. And in these other music organizations, there's absolutely people who might be interested in joining ours, which is wonderful. All right, I'm looking at time here, so I'm gonna keep on going. So we talked about establishing a strategy, setting some goals. We've talked about planning recruitment events, and now we're in, again, the phase of preparing our members. the first thing we talked about was, again, identifying candidates. We all can do this and we all work together in this piece. So the other two things here are passive and active recruitment. We're going to kind of break down what those two things are. So passive, just what it sounds like. You're passively recruiting. So this is basically reputation management. Good activity, take home, think about this. What is your chapter's reputation in your band program, on your campus? How are you being perceived? And is it accurate? Is it what you want it to be? And if it's not, how can you change that? This is kind of really key to always be thinking about how you're being perceived. Do you have a reputation for being kind of rude and not fun? Or are you too much fun? You don't get any work done. Like, what do people think of you and how can you adjust that? And that's really start working inwardly about being the best chapter you can be. That is already, you are already recruiting by just being a chapter. And this one's also real basic. Wear your letters, man. Show up every day at band practice. I mean, as you can. I know some bands actually do require you to wear a certain thing, but as you are able, wearing your letters in every capacity, and show up with that just amazing attitude, that amazing service attitude, and show yourself serving. You're not doing it for the attention, but you're out there. I mean, I know that is one thing that got my attention. Who is this group of people that stays around and helps all the time? I see T, B, and E. What the heck is that? You know, it very much, y'all get the joke, okay. But so, like, again, you should be very proud to wear those letters. That is very key. And be on your best behavior when you're wearing them. And of course, all the time. You're always wearing them. And here's a good practice. Clean your social media. It's just a good one. As a person and as a chapter, I hope your chapter is using social media. That's a really great tool there. And talking about things there, I will pull up the chat here in a second, except it went away. And then on top of that, your personal social medias, guys, please be aware. We can see it. Everyone can see it. If you had a bad day at band and you're hot and you're tired, I get it, but don't go on and tweet something about like, man, what a terrible day. I hate this, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't look good on you or the chapter. Just really just be aware of that, what's going on in your chapter. Finally, my favorite, it's all about that attitude. I always said at Arkansas, it's not hot, I'm not tired, and I love band. And that was marching in 110-degree heat on the concrete. And so sometimes we would say that almost jokingly until we felt it. It's not hot, I'm not tired, I love band. You say that over and over again, you'll start to feel it. Well, I came up north, I was actually visiting the Gamma Road chapter at Eastern Michigan, and I said that phrase, and they all just almost yelled back at me like, no, it's not cold, we're marching in the snow. I'm like, okay. So whatever that is, you know, and they actually still yell this apparently, and they're still using this as part of their recruitment, which is really exciting. You know, your attitude is very obvious. I want you to remember that. So don't have Jon Snow's stank face if you're marching in the cold. And I think there was something in the chat and it went away and I cannot see it.
Lauren just commented that a get to, not have to attitude is very helpful.
Ooh, I love that phrasing. Get to, not have to. That is excellent. Yes. Central Texas shout and freeze. Humor is also good. Enthusiastic approach to band activities. That's somewhere, right? Demonstrate that, and also you'll see who responds to it, and those are your potential candidates right there. These are great. All right, so that was some passive recruitment. Again, it's kind of a misleading term because there is actually some active quality to that. You have to do some stuff in order to recognize that you are always being seen. You're always representing. So active recruitment, we've talked about this already. You gotta talk to people. You gotta get to know people. You can't just hang out in your clique all day. And get out of your comfort zone, get out of your section. And also use recruitment events to do this as well. If you're an active at a recruitment event and you see, somebody is here, a potential candidate, and they're in my section. I think her name was Jane. I'm gonna go, hey, Jane, so glad to see you here. Like, there should never be an event where somebody's just sitting there and no one's talking to them. Like, no one should ever feel uncomfortable like that. And so this is also kind of a key thing of don't get blindsided on bid day. We were talking earlier about how you should kind of be keeping that list of people who might be great candidates for y'all. Bid day shouldn't happen and hear all these bids to people and you go, huh, who's that? I've never heard of him. Or wait, what about that guy? He was really cool. He stayed after for band. Why didn't we give him a bid? You never want to have that kind of moment. You should always be aware of who you're talking to, who you're trying to reach out to. Does that make sense? Questions about passive, active? Most of y'all have heard this part before. Right, moving right along. All right, so let's talk about how we talk to people. This is one of my favorite things to emphasize because a lot of us think we know how to do this and a lot of us really don't. So again, so whether you are speaking at a recruitment event or reaching out to somebody individually, whatever these things are, it's okay to be a little bit nervous, support each other. You know, it's not everybody's strength. It's okay if this isn't your strength. And it's, you know, hang out with your friend who is good at that. You know, the extrovert who brings their introvert along, like, that's okay. This is one I always emphasize, be aware of your own excitement about TBS. I love TBS. I bet you all do too. And if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, TBS looks kind of cool. Like, can I get involved with that? And if your response is, oh my gosh, yes, I'm so excited. Okay, I love TBS. So we do this really cool service project. You're going to love it. You're going to be really great at it. And then, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're interested. Are you terrified? Because I am. Okay, so this is why we practice, okay? You're not inviting people to join a cult. Anybody get this joke? Okay, so again, be aware that you're excited, and this means, you know, you're already in this thing. You know what these things are, you know the secrets, you know all the cool stuff, you know the sisterhood, you know the service, and you're excited about it. And I love that. I'm so glad you're excited about it, but chill. And just remember you're having a conversation with someone who has no idea what this thing is. All they see are your letters and that you're staying after band to serve, which is great. It's a great starting point, but start simple. Know the basics of what TBS is and what we stand for. We're going to talk a little bit about that too. And just be prepared to have a conversation with somebody and don't scare them off. This happens more than you think. So what are some ways we can do that? I'm going to give you a little tips. If you struggle with talking, if you struggle with making these connections, these are some things that are going to help you. All right, take-home activity alert. Practice your elevator speeches. Y'all know what this is, right? Y'all know what an elevator speech is? Okay, so I'm gonna challenge y'all. When was the last time you had to tell somebody who knows nothing about TBS what TBS is in 30 seconds or less? Can you do it? Can you do it without rambling or sounding crazy? Try it. Like when we get off this call, I'm not gonna make you do it now because we are a little tight on time. But when we get off this call, actually get up, go stand in front of your mirror and say, Tau Beta Sigma is XYZ. Here in our chapter, we do XYZ. I'm really excited about it because of XYZ. And you know what? I think you might be interested in it because of, can you do that? I have a whole workshop on this. This is a really hard activity. I really recommend also taking this home and doing this with your chapter. If you're a VPM, make everyone do it because you think you know how to do this, but the second you actually start doing it, you can ramble and you can sound a little intense, or you start going off about something they've never heard of yet. Like, what is coda? Huh? I know that in music, but you know, so just, this is a really good activity to try. You should be able to talk about TBS in 30 seconds or less. Oh, hey, try to see a chat. What's up? Oh, perfect. Great, here's a video if everybody can see that. Let me know. I think, I've done this with, I did a whole elevator speech one on how to make them adjustable for different things with TBS with Epsilon, I think. Epsilon's here. It's great. All right, so here's a classic one. You have to say not romantically, play matchmaker. I call this, you have to meet my sister. So the way this works is step one, know your chapter. Do you know your sisters? Do you know everybody, where they're from, what everybody plays? Do you know what they're binge watching lately? Do you know those kind of fun, weird obsessions like, oh my gosh, she loves penguins. Do you know these weird, fun facts about everybody? Because once you have those, you can make a connection. My personal example is when I was a freshman in the clarinet section, and I was not honestly even really paying attention to TBS or whatever that, TBE, whatever that was. And a sister in my section said, hey, Katie, you're a theater major, right? I was like, yeah, why? And she said, oh, you have to meet my sister, Emily. She's also a theater major. You probably haven't met her yet because she plays saxophone, but she's going to be at this recruitment event later tonight. Do you want to come? I'll give you a ride. And that is a true story because that was Emily. Emily is still one of my best friends to this day, over a decade later, just FaceTimed with her like 2 days ago. So it's just a really simple connection. Like maybe you don't have this thing in common with a person, but I guarantee you one of your sisters does. So try an activity like that. Like try making these connections with your sisters of you need to know each other. Y'all are your greatest resources, and make those connections with somebody else. If they love penguins or they're a theater major or whatever these things are, get them connected with the sister. And a great place to do that are recruitment events. What? So easy. And again, always just ask yourself, who got your attention? and how, and then turn around and do that thing. It's, some of the stuff you actually do already know how to do. It's just verbalizing it and saying, oh, that person made that connection for me. I wonder if I can do that for somebody else. All right, so the next thing is, of course, being ready for those questions. You have your elevator speeches. You can talk about TBS, which is great. You can connect people with your other sisters who have these things in common, or other activities, like, oh, you did this cool band service project in your community. We do band service projects in our community. That's great. But you're gonna get questions. And I really encourage y'all as a chapter to get together and establish what those kind of FAQs are and establish what those answers should be and know how to answer those. So I think we're gonna go into it. Yes, we're gonna have an activity where I'm gonna ask you some of these tough questions. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. I wanna see your faces. Oh, look at those faces. Hello, everyone. All right, somebody wave your hand if you would like to volunteer. I see, all right, that's Lauren from Beta. Yeah, all right, unmute, okay? Here's what we're gonna do. I am going to be potential new candidate Katie, and I play the clarinet in your band, and I have demonstrated these great qualities, and I am interested in TBS, and I'm gonna ask you a question. Are you ready? I'm putting you on the spot, so thank you for volunteering. All right. Lauren, so it's a sorority, right? Is that like a real sorority?
It's as real as you want it to be. It's not Panhellenic, but it's a band sorority. It's a music sorority. We have Greek letters just like sororities do. Yeah.
So what's the difference? Like, what makes y'all not like those other sororities?
So our main purpose, our motto actually is for greater bands. And so we're only focused on serving the music community, whereas Panhellenic sororities all have their own philanthropical obligations.
Yeah, excellent. Snaps, Lauren. Thank y'all. What did she do really well there, guys? Who wants to tell me? Yes, I see a hand.
Whenever she said it can be as real of a Greek organization as you want it to be, that was a good way of explaining it. Cause
good, yeah. Real is a fun word, but you'll get questions. Yes. What else? Yes, down there.
She didn't talk down on other sororities or Greek organizations. She just kind of explained the difference.
Yeah, exactly. That was great. And that's actually kind of why I asked you that follow-up, because it's kind of key. As if you are on a campus that has other Greek organizations, that's a common question. So what's the difference? What are y'all? And again, emphasizing that we're an honorary service organization. That's a really key nugget to take away. We are an honorary service organization that has Greek letters. So that's kind of a key point there. Thank you so much. And thank y'all for sharing with that. All right, I need another volunteer. Now that you know, all right. See it. Jig, you ready? Mute. All right, we're gonna go. Okay, this is perfect. All right. Wait, sisters, a sorority? But I thought you have boy members. What's that about?
So TBS has become an equal opportunity organization. So now we accept both men and women into the organization, or anyone in between. We don't really discriminate based upon your gender identity or sexuality. So we welcome everyone. Everyone can come out and enjoy service and it's an honor to be selected to serve.
Ooh, snaps. Yes, that was great. Who wants to tell me what was great about that? Come on, y'all heard it. Anybody?
I like the term equal opportunity because it's like only for gender. It's like for whatever you want to think about.
Exactly. We are open to everybody. That is so key. Yes. Thank you. Somebody else.
I also really appreciated how he weaved in a lot of the more formal terminology into the answer.
Yeah, that was excellent. Thank you. Devin, I saw your hand too. How was that?
He also said men or women or anything in between, which I caught because I really like that encompasses anyone at all who would want to join TBS.
Absolutely. Gender is a spectrum. Like, and we are absolutely an equal opportunity organization. Great phrasing. We are here for everybody. And like, again, using that formal language as well, but also using that very open and inclusive, like, yeah, you know what? Like, we are a sorority and we support women in music, but you know what? Everybody can support women in music, which is a really cool piece of this. So again, if y'all can't tell, I'm trying to hit on some of those key questions that somebody who is, you know, outside this organization, who's not familiar with what TBS is, what are they going to see and go, huh? And again, if you hear sorority, what? Here are some tough ones. So, all right, we're wrapping up close. So I got one really tough one. Who wants to take the tough one? Come on. I know you can do it. I believe in y'all. Hint, if you were at Membership Mythbusters yesterday, you already know the answer. Somebody. Oh, great. Devin, all right. You ready for this? You ready? All right. Everybody listening? Okay. So, like, I'm also kind of interested in Kappa Kappa Psi. What's really the difference? Like, why should I do TBS?
Well, Kappa Kappa Psi, Tau Beta Sigma serve similar purposes to serve the bands as a whole. I would say that TBS really encourages growth and particularly like being a cheerleader for women as well as serving the bands as a whole.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Devin. All right. Who wants to tell me what he did really well there? Yes, Lauren.
He didn't say, no, you shouldn't go join KSI. Like, TBS is awesome, and we're so much better than them. He didn't make it a competition.
Yes, it's not a competition. Exactly. And you know what? Some people do say it. Some people will say like, oh, no, don't worry about that. And like, so, and if you catch that, if you hear somebody saying that, pull them aside and have a conversation about why we shouldn't do that. Who else? Who wants to tell me what else worked there? No bad mouthing. That's very key. Anybody want to say maybe something else he could have done? No? Anything that might apply if someone's also interested in SAI, Phi Mu Alpha, or there's 8,000 music organizations. I can't even name all of them.
One thing that, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
One thing our chapter does, like if we do get that question, or like I at least try to encourage, is them to take whoever that is to also a brother so that they hear their side and it's not just like one-sided of what they're hearing.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great way. You do not have to tell somebody what KKSI or SAI or da-da-da-da-da stands for. You can say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're interested. I know a brother, I know a sister, I know somebody you could talk to. You should totally talk to them. Here they are. Like, it's not your job to necessarily know. It's you know, it's a good idea to know the basics, but you don't have to do that sell. You can absolutely say, please, oh my gosh, go talk to somebody. They're great too. I saw there was a hand raised. Was it Megan?
Yeah, something that Gamma Omega encourages is like if someone is interested, we try to have all sisters and brothers encourage you to go to Rush events for all organizations just to kind of like learn more about and see where like the differences are and like the personality differences, but just the encouragement to go to all of them just to check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Really encouraging that. Because at the end of the day, you want them to make the best choice for themselves. That is key. This is a person. And you know, I love Kappa Kappa Psi. I love SAI. I love these organizations, but TBS was the right fit for me. That doesn't mean I love those other organizations less. It doesn't mean they're not great. It means this was the right fit for me. And I hope y'all feel the same way. So one kind of conversational technique I always use with that, it very much like what you said of, if you're interested in another organization, oh my gosh, that's great. Please go talk to them. I'm sure they can tell you more information about what they do than I can. However, I would love to tell you about why TBS has been such a perfect fit for me and what I've really gained from this organization. You can always speak to your own experience and why it was perfect for you. And hopefully you'll build that connection with someone and they'll go, wow, you know what? That sounds like it's going to work great for me too. Or maybe they'll say, you know what? No, that doesn't sound like my thing. I'm going to go do something else. And that's okay too. And ultimately you got to respect that decision, give some space. This is not a competition. This is just, you know, you're recruiting for TBS. You're not recruiting against anything else. That's really a key takeaway here. So we're coming up on the hour. I will say with that, a take-home activity. With your chapter, identify what are some frequently asked questions that y'all get. And I said this, these were some that I know that are general. There also might be some that are very specific to your school or chapter. Every school and chapter is different. What are those frequently asked questions? And have your group come up with them together. And then together identify some really smart ways to respond to those. Smart, positive, again, not bashing other things, not talking negatively, but still also honestly answering the questions. You're not, please don't sugarcoat. Like, I know one of the examples I have in here that we didn't do is like, wow, that looks like a lot of work. And, you don't want to say, oh, well, it's easy. We don't do anything. You want to be honest about, we do work hard, but we also work together to help everybody manage their time and balance the fact that, school comes first. There's ways to answer honestly and truthfully without, and still maintaining a positive spin on things. And so I just really encourage you to take time to prepare your members to answer those questions. You should never have somebody flying blind in that way. And if you get a question that's totally new, it's also okay to say, that's a great question. I totally want to go talk to our VPM. Do you want to come with me? It's okay to not know the answer. That's another key point there. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I hope, if nothing else, you take away that recruitment doesn't just happen. Make it happen. Make a strategy. Be the best chapter you can be, and be the best individual representatives of TBS that you can be in reaching out to people, connecting with them, identifying those amazing candidates, and getting them interested and excited about TBS too. And that attitude, that's forever, man. Keep people excited about TBS even after their initiation.